I want to look at some of these huge. So, okay. So we call it a rage pump, which happened over this last week. And we've seen a lot of money been moving around with wallets associated with the sacrifice address for PulseChain. But it was initially injected with 22 million. Boy, when was this? I don't know. I have so many tweets bookmarked. I mean, it was over the course of this last week, but basically 22 million was injected, I think coming from various wallets over the last week. So we started to see that there. Oh yeah. And there was a screenshot. I forget who made it, but there was a good breakdown of everything that was bought. So this is very interesting. Speaking of ink, I think the clips were in sizes of like $300,000 or so each, but basically every major token in the ecosystem other than eHEX was bought for about $250,000, $300,000 or something like that. So yeah, everything started to pump after that, and people were, chasing the green candles, as you said, Ewok, and starting to get into the ecosystem off of that. But again, eHEX not bought. And I don't want to focus on a potential like negative or one of the things about that money being injected. It's obviously great that it was, and people are seeing that, funds for the sacrifice are coming back into the ecosystem. But I'm curious as to your thoughts. And maybe I can actually get that tweet and DM it to you, and we could share the breakdown. I'll look for that here. But give me your thoughts. Here it is. Oh, the one I got was actually from Motley. Let me send it over to you. I know a few people shared this. There, I just said it. But I want to get your thoughts on the fact that by the looks of it here, so of everything that was deployed, it looks like boy, I'm not talking about 300,000. Those 3 million each, actually. My bad. Yeah. So which makes sense. 5 million in ETH. 3.5 million or so in a couple of the different stables. Okay, here we go. And then like 400,000 or so in Pulse, 330,000 or so in Hex on Pulse, 300,000 in Ink, 300,000 in Pulse X. So I was right on that. Yeah, but you can see the breakdown there, and nothing with eHEX. So what do you make of this money coming in first off, and the SAC funds being used to come into the ecosystem here? But what do you think about this breakdown in the DCA that we're seeing here, and the fact that eHEX was left off of the list, at least for now?
Well, I think the big reason that it was left off is because of the sell wall that's there. I think there's a little bit of hesitation knowing that, well, you can flip a coin, I guess. Do you want to get them out at these prices, or do you want to wait till they see things really starting to take off, they pull the liquidity, and then they don't sell, and then they wait for something higher?
Yeah.
I honestly think you would rather get rid of them now. I know there's some capital deployed. However, we can still get the eHEX price to go up when you pull the pHEX price up. So, they are still somewhat bonded together. A lot of these things are, there are pairs, maybe not on Pulse X, but there are pairs out there, the PHUX pools that are there that tie them together. There's a lot of things that are still out there on other exchanges and pools that can help bond them together. So I think, it's one of those tough things where people sacrificed for PulseChain, free speech, things like that. And I think that's what you want to support. Will it do something on the other side? There's a possibility. I know there's a lot of money sitting there. We other than this move, just in the last 2 days, there's been 58,000 ETH that was purchased. So we still have to wonder what's going to happen there. What's up with that? They've got a lot to say about that too. Because the average price of it is like $3,600, which is higher than the price is right now. So, I hear a lot of people saying, I thought Richard was the smart guy or whatever. Well, again, we don't know who's doing it. We can assume, but there could be ulterior things that they have planned. What if a lot of this is going to come over and bond things together? What if they do buy up that bag that the BankX holds, and you end up seeing the eHEX, PHEX farm back, and it bonds it together. I think there's a lot of options right now that could happen, and it'd be exciting to see any of them play out. But Richard and his folks are always a couple steps ahead. So I wouldn't discount anything, but it's going to benefit everybody. And I think just kind of waiting for the right time. So yeah.
I think you make a great point. I do think it could be influenced by the BankX thing and the fact that you can make eHEX go up by not necessarily buying eHEX. So
Right.
I think that's interesting. Yeah, because you don't want to put that cash in there for them to take it back necessarily. So
No, we talked about this before, and I kind of want to circle back to it because I don't know if it's possible or not. Could you pump one side, get the other side to rise, and kind of bypass that whole buy wall with the prices? Because you almost need to sell into a buy wall. However, if you have exterior forces raising that price, there isn't really a wall, right? I mean, can you skip by it? And I don't know that anybody has talked about this very much, but I wonder if it's possible to just kind of leave them behind. It wouldn't be a good thing, I don't think, because again, they would pull it and put it at a higher level. Rather than get them out now. But I mean, I think you could technically bypass that whole buy wall with things that are tied together and not really have to sell into it. So that's still an interesting thought that I haven't heard anybody really talk about.
Yeah, I think that is the risk if you're playing around with the BankX entity and you're trying to just put a bunch of cash in to surpass them and cancel them out. Yeah, you have that risk there of like, what if they just move the sell price up or something? I think it might be more helpful if it's just a longer, like more organic looking type process, just so. Like, here's the thing, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, but BankX has shown their hand. That's why it's a bullish thing. Like, we know what they're doing, we know what their intent is. You don't get this on other chains, yada yada, all the stuff we always say. I think keeping them in your pocket like that is for the best. And I would rather just we know what they're thinking, we know what they're doing. Let's let the orders execute when they do and move on. You know what I mean? But yeah, it is an interesting conversation.